John Airy here with AintItCool.com, and I gotta tell you, I'm pretty excited about 2015. That's when we're going to see the next Star Wars film in theaters, and I am hopeful. Hopeful's a good word. Hopeful that it's not going to suck. This has led me and countless others on the internet to contemplate just what we might expect from the next Star Wars film. And I put together a list of my top 5 characters with a few extras thrown in from previous installments of Star Wars. I'm talking the original trilogy, the prequels, the Clone Wars, Timothy Zahn's Thrawn trilogy of novels, the expanded universe, the Star Wars Christmas special, etc., that I would love to see in Star Wars Episode VII.
Number 5? Dengar from Episode V. This may sound like a strange pick. Why would we want to see a bounty hunter guy from Empire whose most remarkable attribute involves a dirty towel wrapped around his head? In my opinion, he's the perfect person to assassinate Han Solo. If we're lucky enough to get Harrison Ford back for Episode VII, I doubt that he'll have much screen time. He's said in the past that he would have liked to see Han killed off in the original trilogy. Also, he's never seemed to be a huge fan of the character.
As a character, he was, he was not so interesting to me.
So perhaps we could see Han Solo's death, and Dengar would seem to be the perfect person to carry out the deed. Back in the day, this Corellian suffered an almost fatal injury while swoop racing a young Han Solo. If it hadn't been for the Imperial doctors, who implanted cybernetic enhancements into his body and then nursed him back to health, Dengar would have died. Since that fateful day, this cyborg assassin has sworn revenge on his greatest enemy, the pilot of the Millennium Falcon. On a totally unrelated side note, Boba Fett was the best man at Dengar's wedding. Number 4 on the list? Vort Sabinring. Gamorreans get a bad rap. Everyone thinks that these fat, pig-like humanoids smell and have the brain power of a bantha. For the most part, that's a true statement. But one Gamorrean has bucked the status quo. Vort Sabinring. His friends call him Piggy. He spent much of his youth as an unwilling subject in a series of Imperial science experiments. Emperor Palpatine wanted to give some of the lower species in the galaxy more intelligence in order to create a pool of disposable spies and assassins. Piggy escaped and educated himself on the library planet of Obroa Sky. Later, he joined the Alliance and enlisted his unique skill set to serve the Wraith Squadron, an elite special operations team. I want to see this interesting character utilized in the new films, simply because he has such an interesting story. He would look awesome in the cockpit of a V-Wing, and he would give filmmakers the opportunity to put a fully rounded alien character on screen. The aliens of Star Wars, for the most part, get the shaft when it comes to story. They either provide a punchline, exposition, action scene fodder, or bland characterization. With the exception of Yoda, aliens in the Star Wars universe rarely get to serve the story in an important way. Someone like Piggy could go a long ways towards making Star Wars a place where everyone, regardless of your species, has a chance to make a real difference. Number 3. Cad Bane from the Clone Wars. He's a bounty hunter based on Van Lee Cleef's character from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. What more do I need to say? Well, here's a little bit more info on this cunning blue bad guy from Duro. Based on this vintage drawing George Lucas had commissioned for the original trilogy, producers for the Clone Wars animated series developed this cold, calculating character who doesn't take prisoners unless the price is right. He's armed with 2 blasters, a flamethrower, a rifle, and he's not afraid to pull out a lightsaber if the situation calls for it. This badass with rockets on his boots would shiv a baby if you paid him enough. If the Episode VII script calls for a hardcore bounty hunter or an assassin who is willing to do anything for a space credit, hopefully Bane will get the gig. Number 2. Grand Admiral Thrawn from the Thrawn Trilogy of books by Timothy Zahn. You could say that one of the Empire's greatest flaws has to do with xenophobia. Rarely do members of alien races ever get the opportunity to climb the chain of command, but Thrawn is a unique exception. As the guy who leads the Empire out of a colossal collapse at the Battle of Endor, he turned a ragtag group of Imperial ships and soldiers into a formidable force. Thrawn embraces culture, innovation, loyalty, and the humane treatment of others. This represents a 180-degree change in management style from the old regime of Palpatine and Vader. Instead of leading from a place of fear, Thrawn's subordinates revere his progressive attitudes towards race and social status. He studies the art of alien cultures to better understand their psyches, and then uses that analysis against them on the battlefield. Instead of punishing his soldiers after a defeat, he learns from their mistakes and makes sure they will be prepared for the next round of attacks. This tactical genius provides the New Republic with an awesome foe that has the skills to decimate their independence while creating a brilliantly complex villain for viewers to empathize with. As a new kind of central bad guy for the upcoming trilogy, he would bring a much-needed dichotomous breath of fresh air to the Star Wars cinematic universe. And the character I most want to see in Episode VII? Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. I know. Luke Skywalker, it's a no-brainer, but I'm excited to see him as an older Jedi Master, as the last member of a once proud and revered religion. In many ways, Luke has become the most powerful person in the galaxy. He has almost as much political clout as any other member of the Alliance, and his force powers make him practically invulnerable to attacks from his enemies. I want to know how the last of the Jedi would deal with life as a demigod. Would it make him more distant from humanity, or will his new status change his outlook on the ways of the Jedi? In the expanded universe, he marries Mara Jade, a former assassin who would later become a Jedi herself. This never made sense to me. That's like Ben Kenobi hooking up with Mon Mothma, or Kit Fisto making out with Jar Jar's sister. Jedi live life like Buddhist monks, with a strict adherence to tradition and the rules of their religion. Now that he's the only Jedi left, will he celebrate the traditions passed down to him by Ben Kenobi and Master Yoda, or will he rewrite the Jedi Code? His father made the mistake of trying to walk the line between normal life and the duties of a Jedi Knight. We know how that worked out for him, but will Luke make the same mistakes? Before we conclude, here are a few quick runners-up who just missed out on my top 5. Pre Vizsla, the Mandalorian megalomaniac with a black energy blade, not only battles Jedi while flying around in a sweet suit of armor, but he would make for a terrific bad guy to attempt an overthrow of the New Republic. Sabaoth. He's a Jedi clone found by Admiral Thrawn's forces. Why didn't Palpatine conscript clone Jedi into his army? Probably because they go crazy after a few years, just like Sabaoth. How awesome would it be to watch a nut-job Jedi take on a New Republic battalion of troops? And finally, Ketch. Imagine an Ewok fitted with prosthetic enhancements that allow him to fly an X-Wing. This one has sort of a complicated backstory, but mostly involves Wedge Antilles flying into battle with a stuffed animal attached to his chest. The Imperial pilots believe they are getting blown away by a cute cuddly animal, and thus the legend of Ketch the Ewok pilot was born.
Well, those are my picks for the characters that I would most like to see in a new Star Wars film or trilogy. What are yours? You can leave your comments below and keep checking in with AintItCool.com for more news and reviews. I'm John Airy.